Hey, it's Steven from Trip of a Lifestyle, and I've got an update for you on I-bonds. So in case you don't know, I-bonds are these government-issued savings bonds, and they have a return that's linked to recent inflation, which inflation has been pretty high recently. For money that you want to lock up long-term, like a decade or more, I-bonds typically are not a super exciting investment, so don't get confused about that. I don't really consider them to be a great long-term investment. You'd very likely be better off with something like a stock market index fund, which is riskier, but it has a higher expected return in the long run. However, for money you're going to need to access 1 or 2 years from now, or like as an alternative to a low-risk bond position in your portfolio, I-bonds, also known as Series I savings bonds, are a pretty interesting option. And right now, October 2022, is a particularly attractive time to consider buying them, and I'm going to explain why. By the way, if you appreciate these updates and the free information that we put out, take a second to hit the like button on this video and subscribe to see more in the future. By the way, we'll be answering your questions in the comments too. So here's the deal. If you buy I-bonds through treasurydirect.gov before October 31st, 2022, you want to make sure the transaction actually clears before October 31st, you will lock in a guaranteed interest rate of about 9.6%. Now, that only lasts for your first 6 months of holding the I-bonds. And you'll have a guaranteed renewal rate of about 6.5% after that for 6 more months. That leaves you with a guaranteed average return of a little over 8% during your first year of holding, and an undetermined return after that. Now, remember, you have to hold I-bonds for an absolute minimum of 1 year no matter what. That's part of the rules of I-bonds. If you cashed out right at the 1 year mark, an I-bond that you bought right now, October 2022, you'd have to pay an early withdrawal penalty, and that's equal to 3 months of interest, which would bring your actual 1 year return after accounting for the penalty to somewhere around 6.5%. But here's the thing. That is still way better than the current rate on 1 year treasury bonds, which are paying 4.5% right now, or a high yield savings account, which is paying somewhere around like 2.2, 2.3% right now. All of those options are pretty much risk-free without any of the short-term volatility of the stock market, but I-bonds are clearly the best one of those options over the next 12 months. Now, here's why I say to buy them in October 2022 and why that's a special time instead of waiting till, say, next month, November 2022. If you wait to buy I-bonds till November 1st, 2022, you might not get a deal this good. Buying in November, your guaranteed lowest annualized interest rate for the first 6 months is right around 6.5%. And actually, that may be increased a little bit by an as yet unannounced change in the fixed rate of I-bonds, which I personally think could be as high as an extra 1 to 2%, maybe as high as even like 1.8% based on current TIPS rates. So that's encouraging, that's cool, but you shouldn't count on that with any certainty. And even if you were to add 1.8% to the 6.5, it's still not greater than the 9.6 you can lock in for 6 months right now. And here's another problem. By waiting to buy I-bonds in November, you'll also be forced to hold your I-bonds through an additional 6 months after that. Remember, you have to hold them for 1 full year. Those additional 6 months will be at a completely unknown interest rate. We don't know anything about what that rate will be. And it could be as low as 0%. If you do the math on that, this means your worst case scenario for I-bonds purchased in November 2022 is a 1 year return of 3.2%. But remember, the worst case scenario of buying I-bonds in October 2022 is closer to 6.5% over the first year. So personally, I think October I-bonds are a much, much better buy than November I-bonds. If you do decide to buy some I-bonds, remember, there's a limit of $10,000 per year per taxpayer ID when you're buying through treasurydirect.gov. And also, make sure you check out our other videos on I-bonds for more details before you jump in and buy. If you like this kind of stuff, don't forget to subscribe or follow along on your favorite social media platform.